So what exactly is happening for you in October? In this video, we are going to find out based on your zodiac sign. So if you clicked this video, welcome. If you're new, we're going to get into your horoscope and monthly prediction for the month of October 2020. So spooky season, autumn, fall is finally here. And with spooky season is the month of October. And the month of October, astrologically, definitely has some things going on. And we're going to get into it. So how I usually do my predictions, if you guys are new here, hi. How I do them is that we're going to go through each monthly event and talk about the main events of the month. Every month, astrologically, there's a lot of things that goes on, but in this video, we dial it down to the main ones and then talk about how it influences your zodiac sign. So with that being said, I do this video based on rising signs, so it's best to watch it for your rising sign. You can watch it for your moon sign as well. So moon sign or rising sign is best for this video. It's also using sidereal dates, sidereal astrology. So with the dates I'm going to show you in a second on the screen of the events, this is using the sidereal dates, which are a little bit different than the tropical dates. And if you guys are curious about tropical versus sidereal astrology, I did a video about that not too long ago. So with that being said, I'll put on the screen now a list of the events off the top of my head. In October, we're going to have, let me make some room for it. In October, we start off the month with full moon in Pisces, and then in the middle of the month, so on October 13th, we have Mercury going retrograde in Libra, which is going to be very messy. So we're going to talk about what that means for your zodiac sign specifically. And we end the month with a full moon in Aries. And I believe the other major event happening is Pluto going direct. So there's a few things happening, but they're all very big major events, and that's what the month is looking like. That's also posted on my Instagram as well. So on Instagram, I pretty much do the little recap on my stories, on my posts about the month. So follow me on Instagram so you don't miss out at AstroKit. So with that being said, let's just get into it. Hi Aries, if you're watching this, Aries risings, Aries moons. Let's talk about what the month of October is bringing you. So in the first timestamp of this video, I talked about the main events of the month of October. I also have it posted on my Instagram. And so we're going to touch on a couple of those major events and really talk about how they influence you on a personal level. So right out the gate on October 1st, we have full moon in Pisces. And so this Pisces full moon represents the energy of healing, the energy of boundary setting. And so boundary setting is a huge theme in October for the collective, but it's even more powerful for you, Aries, just because you're having the activation of your 7th house in October. So your 7th house is the house of partnership. If you're an Aries rising watching this, your 7th house is Libra and your 1st house is Aries. And what is the 1st and 7th house axis all about? It's about partnership. It's about how we set boundaries with people, how we compromise with people. And for you as an Aries, you can struggle with compromise, you can struggle with partnership because your sister sign, Libra, is all about boundaries, partnership, and compromise. So I feel like I have this theory that usually we feel our zodiac sign season. So obviously you feel Aries season very strongly because you have Aries in your chart, but we also feel our sister sign season very strongly. So Libra is your sister sign. And so October Libra season, you're going to feel that Libra sister sign energy quite strongly, and you feel it almost as magnified in your chart as you do when it is Aries season. So Aries, Libra, sister signs. I think I have a video about that, so I'll link it down below if you guys don't know about sister signs. But when it comes to your 7th house, it is activated with the sun in October. So this means your focuses for October are partnership. Your focuses are really about how you set boundaries with people. And what I will emphasize about this partnership theme month for you is that you're not just thinking about partnerships, but you're really taking an active approach with creating balance in your partnerships, creating harmony. Again, you are a part of the Aries Libra sister sign polarity, and if you're an Aries, you're somebody who can struggle with balance. You can do things in extremes. You can be someone who throws tantrums. You can be someone who is very impulsive or reacts very impulsively to things without thinking. So this sister sign season for you is really about being in that energy of balance, of compromise. How can I make this work? How can I consider others? Being considerate. And that brings me to Mercury in retrograde. So Mercury does go retrograde in October 13th. It goes retrograde in the sign of Libra. So you are feeling this retrograde even more strongly than most people. I feel like out of everyone, you're going to be the ones that have every ex you've ever had hitting you up in October. A bunch of exes are going to hit you up in October, basically, because your 7th house of partnership is activated with retrograde. And besides exes, though, I will expand more about Mercury in retrograde in my Mercury retrograde video. I'll make a separate video. If you want a full sneak peek about Mercury in retrograde and how it affects you in October, I will have that on my Patreon. So if you want a little bit of an early access to that event, go to my Patreon. But in general, just know it's happening in your 7th house of partnership. Expect some exes to resurface. But other than that, though, Mercury rules communication. It rules how we speak to people, how we communicate, and how we think as well. So you're going to have a lot of moments in October, where you are reassessing how you communicate with others, how you project yourself with others, and really reassessing how you set balance to partnerships. Retrograde is all about reassessment, reconfiguration, and just realigning yourself. So you are realigning your partnerships and how you approach them overall. And in October as well, we're going to start feeling that Taurus North Node shift. So on September 23rd, I made a whole video about the huge shift that is happening of the North and South Node. I'll link it down below if you guys missed it, but you're really going to start feeling that North Node going into your 2nd house in October. So in October for you, Aries, I feel like you're going to be really focused on setting this new cycle towards financial gain, the cycle towards gaining money. It's going to be a really finance-focused month for you, where you do focus on what you can gain, what your revenue streams are, how you can gain money. It's going to be a very money month for you. And so if you want to know more about how that influences your life for the next 2 years, because the North Node is going to be in your 2nd house for 2 years, or about 18 months, go to that shift video as well. So with that being said, since October is spooky season, that is Halloween as well. On Halloween, on October 31st, we're having another full moon. So it's kind of unique. In October, we're having a full moon on the 1st, a full moon on the 31st. So we have a full jam-packed month of this emotional sort of energy. And the full moon is going to be in the sign of Aries. So the full moon is going to be in your sign, uniquely enough. And as you close out the month in October, you're just going to really be closing that energy and having that really reflective moment of yourself versus other people, and how you really balance give and take with yourself and people. You're going to be more so focused on other people throughout the month, and then by the end of the month, October 31st, is the full moon in your 1st house in your sign. You're going to be more focused on how to project yourself moving forward in partnerships, and reflecting on how you manage the month overall. So with that being said, October 31st is Halloween. If you guys can tell, I love Halloween. And I actually made a video about Zodiac signs and Halloween costumes. It's a really fun video, so you guys can check it out. I'll link it down below. So tell me down below, what are one of your most memorable Halloween costumes? If you've had really funny ones, I really want to know. Comment down below. Follow me on Instagram. You guys don't want to miss the content I post daily on there at AstroKit, and stay subscribed to this channel, because we're going to go over the Mercury retrograde in just a couple weeks, and I'll post a video about that. And then if you want sneak peek early access to how the retrograde will affect you, warnings, things to look out for, etc., I'll have that on my Patreon, and I will see you, Aries, in my next video. So what's happening for you, Leo, in October? We're going to get into it in this video and talk about what your month is looking like, and how the events that are happening astrologically are going to impact you in a personal way. So October is spooky season, it is fall, and there are a lot of events going on, and very powerful events going on. So let's just get into it and what it means for you. And we'll start off with this full moon. So the full moon starts off the month October 1st. Also, in the first timestamp of this video, I have the full list of events in October. You guys can screenshot it. I also have it on my Instagram too, at AstroKit. But when it comes to events and breaking down the events, the first event is the full moon in Pisces, and it's happening on the 1st of October. So we start off the month with this very Piscean energy, and we end off the month with a very Libra theme because Libra season does start in October. So overall, collectively, I will say the month is really about this sense of boundary setting. Partnership is a huge theme in October, and I'll get more into that with the Mercury in retrograde in the sign of Libra, but we're having this very Libra energy very strongly, this Virgo energy still very strongly, and as well as Pisces energy very strongly. And I feel like the similar thing with the Aries Libra sister sign partnership and the similar thing with the Virgo Pisces partnership or Virgo Pisces sister sign polarity is that both of those polarities and sister signs deal with boundaries. They deal with boundary setting. They deal with how we communicate our needs with other people, how we partner with people, how we value ourselves, and how do we draw that line in the sand of who we are and who we partner with. So that's going to be really in the air in October, and specifically for you, Leo, where you're really going to feel most of this energy is in your third house. So third house does rule communication. It rules siblings, short distance travel. It rules anything having to do with media, social media, writing, talking, anything along those lines. And so you're having your sun in the third house for most of October, and so you're really going to be focused on how you communicate with people. How do you communicate your boundaries? How do you communicate your needs with people? How do you really create that energy of compromise and consideration with people? And I feel like with the third house energy, you're going to be more engaged in topics or engaged in speaking about those things with people. And not just romantically, but also just your friends, associates, peers. How do you collaborate with them? How do you even create partnerships with them? So you're also going to be focused a lot on your work projects. I feel like with third house, it deals a lot with media and it deals with social media as well. It does aspect the 11th house of social media. So you will be posting a lot more. I feel like you're going to be posting like a lot of memes, posting a lot of funny content, for example. The third house, ninth house axis does deal with like comedy and humor. So you might find some relief, especially from the Mercury in retrograde, which we'll get to in a second, through humor, through laughing, through communicating with people, through memes, or through kind of humorous gestures. And you can expect to be more immersed in media and how you communicate with people and having a lot of boldness when it comes to communication. Mind you, third house is the house of courage, and so you're going to have a lot of courage to communicate certain things in October. Communicate what's on your heart, communicate what's is your boundaries, what are your standards, and creating those really balanced partnerships through communications, but doing it boldly. And that brings me to Mercury in retrograde. So Mercury goes retrograde, we all know about it, and it's going retrograde in the sign of Libra. So like I've been telling the other zodiac signs, this is a retrograde where the exes are coming out. This is definitely spooky season because every ex you could think of is probably coming out. For you specifically, the retrograde's happening in your third house. So third house is the house of like grade school. So you can be like contacted by old people from or former like friends or former exes, I guess, former associates from grade school or people like that, or cousins or siblings you haven't talked to might be hitting you up during that time. You might be more urged to talk to people that are like that because the third house does rule siblings, peers, grade school classmates. And so you might be also really reflecting on past ideas, reflecting on past work projects that maybe you put aside. And this retrograde is very unique because it does trigger this sense of wanting to create balance, but having your intentions being kind of misunderstood. With Mercury in retrograde, it does trigger a lot of misunderstandings with people, so you can expect that as well. However, I will be expanding upon that in my Mercury in retrograde video, which you guys don't want to miss. Also, if you guys want a really early sneak peek of Mercury in retrograde and how it affects you personally and really the warnings I would give with this specific retrograde coming up, I have that posted on my Patreon. So if you want like an early sneak peek, you guys can head to Patreon. But in general, I would say the third house retrograde for you, Leo, is really about this sense of reassessing your communication skills, reconnecting with people from your past, potentially like grade school people, old associates, peers, and figuring out how to communicate what you want in partnerships and your boundaries in the healthiest way and most balanced way, which is that Libra energy that's so magnified in October. So that brings me to this North Node shift yet again. Now the North Node already shifted on September 23rd. I think as I post this video, it's September 23rd. And you're really gonna feel that North Node shift into your 10th house in October. And I made a whole video about this shift of the North Node and South Node. So you guys can check that out if you want to see what your life looks like for the next 18 months and what your destiny and fate holds for you for that period of time. But in October, I will say you probably will be launching new work projects. It's not really a good time to launch work projects, but if you have like an old idea that you've really wanted to do for a while, something you've journaled about, something you've written about, or something like that, you can revamp it and post it or publish it. 10th house does rule career. It rules our reputation and how the public sees us. So expect more attention from the public in October, more heightened career success, and expect more. I feel like there's going to be a lot of social media dialogue for you, or being on social media a lot, posting a lot, communicating with people a lot through there, a lot of attention through social media. That 10th house Rahu is really going to magnify and electrify your work life and career life overall, and you're initiating a new cycle towards career. So I get more into that specifically in the shift video, so you guys can check that out. I'll link it down below. So October 31st is Halloween. It is spooky season, and there's actually a full moon on Halloween, so it is very on brand in October and on Halloween with the spooky vibes. And so that full moon is in Aries, and so I'll probably do like another video or Instagram post about the full moon in Aries, so I don't bog down this reading too much. But with that being said, I'm curious to know what's like a Halloween costume you've had in the past. What was your favorite costume? What was like a really funny costume you had? I did a video last year about zodiac signs and costumes you would wear, so I'll link that down below if you guys want to see it. So with that being said, head to my Patreon if you want a really early sneak peek of the Mercury retrograde and warnings and how it will affect you, and stay tuned because I'll be doing a whole video about it as well. So subscribe so you don't miss it. Head to my Instagram for more astrology content at AstroKit, and I'll see you Leos in my next video. So what is happening for you Sagittarius in the month of October? So in this video, in this prediction, in this horoscope reading, we're gonna get into your month, what it looks like for you, and how the major astrological events are going to impact you in October. October is spooky season, it is fall, it is autumn. There's a couple really powerful events that are really going to impact us in a major way. Cough, cough. Mercury goes retrograde in October, so we'll get into that in a second. But overall, the themes in October deal a lot with boundaries and partnership. Those are the themes for the collective. Libra season is in October. We're having a full moon in Pisces. We're having this Virgo season energy still linger a little bit. So those zodiac signs deal a lot with partnership, boundaries, and how we communicate that with other people and create balance based on those things. So let's get into your chart, Sagittarius, and really talk about what's happening for you and how all of this energy is going to impact you directly. So when it comes to the energy and focus for you in October, you're going to have a lot of 11th house energy activated. So you're going to have your sun in the 11th house for kind of like the latter half of October, but you're also having the Mercury retrograde in Libra in your 11th house. And with all of this 11th house energy, you're going to be focused on networking, focused on your social groups, your friends, social media as well. And that is the 11th house on a surface level. Surface level, it is like friends, social media, how we socialize, network, etc. But on a deeper level, it does deal with our desires, our long-term desires, what we want to fulfill in this lifetime. For you, Sagittarius, you will be focused on how you manifest those desires, what your desires even are. There's going to be that strong like retrograde energy in October because Mars is retrograde and Mercury is retrograde, which we'll get into in a second. But with that retrograde energy, it does trigger reassessing things, looking back on things, and overall really reassessing your goals. And that really ties to the North Node shift, which I also will touch on in a second. But the North Node shift does deal a lot with destiny and fate, and 11th house deals with desires. So your fate and destiny is about to shift along with what your desires are. And that's really strong energy for you, Sagittarius, because you are such a passionate person who's very goal oriented. And I feel like your desires are really like the bulk of your life and really drive you throughout life, specifically since you are a Sag. So that brings me into this Mercury retrograde. So Mercury goes retrograde, and get this, in the sign of Libra. So not only is it Libra season, but Mercury goes retrograde in Libra. So this does trigger the sense of the traditional like joke of like your exes coming back during retrograde. So I feel like Libra does rule partnership, it rules literally marriage, and so your exes are going to be resurfacing, people you've talked to but haven't talked to in a while. And especially for you, Sagittarius, since you're having this Mercury retrograde in Libra in your 11th house. 11th house is a very social house. It does aspect the 7th house by trine. So you can expect old friends to be popping up. You can expect past acquaintances, people that maybe you went to school with, people that you were in the same organization with, like a sorority, a frat, a club, etc. Even on social media, you're going to have a lot of past people hitting you up. 11th house does rule social media, and you'll be really focused and putting a lot of your energy on social media in October, and what your social media looks like, how you use it as a tool, how you network with it, etc. But specifically, I feel like you will be feeling that retrograde energy of like past friends coming back, and kind of resetting the balance between you and people in your social circle, and really resetting your boundaries like we talked about, really contemplating what your boundaries are, contemplating and reassessing what your desires are, and really shaping that social circle of yours with those things in mind. This October theme really brings up a lot around boundaries and how we set boundaries with people. So if you feel like those boundaries have been a little bit misaligned in the past few months, you're going to be resetting them in October and really resetting your social life. I feel like you're going to reset who you connect with, reset how you connect with people. There's this huge social theme for you, and resetting those like social aspects of your life, and especially on social media as well. And when it comes to Mercury in retrograde, I have posted on my Patreon a sneak peek about what it looks like for each sign and warnings for each sign. So if you want to see like a sneak peek of what that looks like, you guys can go to my Patreon. But in general, just know it does deal with 11th house themes, and like we talked about, resurfacing of past friends and recalibrating your friend group. And so that brings me into this North Node shift. Now, we talked about the North Node shift in my North Node shift video, which I will link down below if you guys missed it. But with the North Node shift, it does shift officially as you watch this, so September 23rd. However, we're going to feel that North Node really entering the house it's in our charts for October. It's like the first full month with the North Node in Taurus, which is a really huge deal. And so for you, your North Node is going to be in your 6th house of work. Like we talked about earlier, there's this recalibration of your social group with your 11th house activated, but your 6th house is also going to be really activated. And 6th house is about healing, health, and work, and our routines as well. So that's another focus for you in October, is how you set routines for yourself. You're really focused on this energy, and you're really focused on health and healing, I feel like, in October. And I feel like whatever you're working on in terms of health and healing, you're going to try and recalibrate that friend group like we talked about, with those same ideas in mind, and setting boundaries with people who don't align with those new health goals that you have, those new routines that you have. You might even get like a whole new routine in October. And so with new routines, with new goals and new health goals especially, you're going to attract different people, and you're going to cut off maybe some people that don't really align with those new healthy ways of living. So your healthy lifestyle is going to be a focus for you. You are prioritizing that, and really creating balance within your social group, and creating balance within the people who also align with those healthy goals that you have. And so with that being said, October is spooky season. It is Halloween on October 31st, and October 31st is another full moon. So we have 2 full moons in 1 month. And that's really on brand for Halloween because we're having a full moon on Halloween. So we're going to feel those spooky vibes. So with that being said, I'm curious to know what is like one of your favorite Halloween costumes that you've had? What are some like really funny ones? I feel like Sagittarius, you're like the jokester, so you've probably had really funny ones. But comment down below and tell me what your funny Halloween costumes are. I have a Halloween costumes Zodiac sign video on my channel. I will link down below. It's pretty funny. I posted it last year. But with that being said, for a sneak peek of the Mercury retrograde happening on October 13th, I will have that posted on my Patreon, and I will be doing a separate video about it as well. And subscribe so you don't miss it. I also have more daily content that you don't want to miss on my Instagram. And my Instagram is @astrokit, so you guys can follow that. And I'll see you, Sagittarius, in my next video. So what is happening in the month of October for you, Taurus? So you're Taurus watching this, and we're going to talk about what your October looks like, what the month looks like for you, and how the astrological events happening in October will impact you personally. Now, October, it's full of a few events that are very powerful, and October does bring this certain energy to it. So let's get into it and talk about how this energy manifests for you and for the collective at large. So when it comes to October, especially for you, Taurus, and I will touch on what it means for the collective, is October really represents this theme of boundaries, this theme of partnership, this theme of relationships. There's going to be a Mercury retrograde in the sign of Libra. It's Libra season, so this Libra energy is activated. This energy of Virgo and Pisces is activated, so that polarity as well. And both of those polarities deal a lot with boundary setting in partnerships and creating balance in partnerships. And so let's get into what this means for you, Taurus, considering that is the major theme for the collective in October. So for you, Taurus, you're having a lot of energy in your 6th house, and so your 6th house is very activated in October. So that means your month of October is really focused around diet, around health, around routines, and really this new healthy lifestyle you are initiating, which we will get into when I talk about the North Node shift in just a second. So you're having the sun in your 6th house, and you're having Mercury go retrograde in your 6th house as well. I'll talk about Mercury going retrograde in a second, but with the sun in your 6th house, this does manifest as you really being focused on your health routines, focused on your lifestyle. Is it healthy? Is it productive? Is it efficient? You're really focused on getting your life together in October, organizing things, and potentially for some Taurus, if some things have gotten out of order in your life, 6th house is the house of order. And so in October, you are really focused on putting order to your life, having a healthy lifestyle, changing up your diet if you've been eating unhealthy, really regulating your routine a little bit more, paying a lot of attention to what you do on a daily basis and how productive that is for you. So your focus is really on that 6th house energy of productivity and health. And let's talk about Mercury going retrograde. So this Mercury going retrograde, it's going retrograde on October 13th, 2020. And I do have the list of dates of the events in October listed in the first timestamp of this video, as well as on my Instagram. You guys can get a screenshot of it if you want to be more clear about the dates. But on October 13th, 2020, Mercury goes retrograde in the sign of Libra. So this is the retrograde out of all retrograde that does like summon exes from the past. Libra does rule partnership. Libra does rule relationships. And like I talked about, Libra season is in October. That Libra archetype, Libra sister sign polarity with Aries, for example, is really activated in October. So with the Mercury retrograde in Libra, it is very on brand of having old people from the past really hit you up, people you were once involved with, relationships, etc. But specifically since the Mercury retrograde is happening in your 6th house of Libra, potentially people that you used to work with are hitting you up. Potentially old jobs are hitting you up. Potentially old routines that you forgot about, or routines that were healthy and then maybe you stopped having the discipline to continue them. You will maybe pick those same routines back up in October. And so I will do a separate video about the do's and don'ts of retrograde, so you guys don't want to miss that, especially for this retrograde coming up. So In general, though, just know that it's happening in your 6th house, and those 6th house themes are activated. And I do have a sneak peek on the warnings for retrograde and really the breakdown of what it means for your sign on my Patreon. So if you want more of a sneak peek, head to Patreon. And so that brings me into really this energy of the 6th house and this energy of retrograde. And I feel like you're going to be really reassessing how you get things done, reassessing how efficient things are. I feel like retrograde in Libra, it really brings this energy of wanting to create balance to things, wanting to create balance to your routines, to your health, how you do things and do them productively. So I feel like in this retrograde energy, you might really struggle a little bit at first to get your routine down pat, but by the end of October, I feel like you will have it down pat, just because retrograde is a little bit does cause delays, so expect that a little bit too, but we'll get more into that on Patreon and in my next do's and don'ts video. So that brings me to another major energy we will feel in October, and what you're really going to feel, Taurus, is North Node going into Taurus. So I made a whole video about the North Node shift. North Node is the point of destiny and fate, and it is shifting. As you watch this, it's shifting on September 23rd. And so we're ending the month of September with the shift, but we're really going to feel the shift very strongly in the full month of October. And so the North Node going into your 1st house, North Node is going into Taurus. So this means this next 18-month cycle is really all about you and really being focused on your appearance, focused on how you look. And we really talked about that more in the shift video, which I will link down below if you missed it. But basically how this is relevant in October into this 6th house retrograde energy you are having. You'll be focused on this sort of like new rebrand of yourself. I talked about in the shift video about how you are changing your appearance. Maybe you're losing weight, getting a new hairstyle, cutting your hair off, doing new makeup, etc. And 6th house energy does represent new routines. So I feel like you're on this new trajectory of like health and being the healthiest person you can be, whatever that means to you. So having a healthy diet, for example, healthy workout routine, healthy routines in general, however that fits into the scope of your life, you will be focused on health. And not only that, but aligning this new version of yourself that is like the rebrand for you with this North Node and Taurus in your 1st house. You're really focused on this like rebrand of yourself and cutting off people who don't align with that. So Libra season, retrograde, it is about partnerships specifically this time around, and you're having the South Node in your 7th house of partnership. And so South Node does trigger the sense of cutting things off. So I feel like out of all of the zodiac signs, you're going to be focused like really on yourself and your health and your journey, and cutting out people left and right, blocking people left and right, family members, even people that are from your past, even people that just don't align with this new rebrand of yourself, this new healthy version of yourself. You're cutting them off in October. So I feel like a lot of zodiac signs are dealing with partnerships on all levels, but you specifically, you are cutting a lot of people out in October, so expect that. And October is spooky season. It is Halloween on the 31st. We're having a full moon on Halloween, so that is very on brand. I will be doing a special video about the Halloween full moon, so stay tuned for that. And speaking of Halloween, I'm curious to know, what is one of your favorite Halloween costumes? If you are dressing up this year, comment down below what your costume is. If you don't want to tell yet, tell me one of your favorite costumes, maybe like a funny costume you had. I feel like it is a very special Halloween this year. And I did do a video about zodiac signs and costumes and like the costume you would wear based on your zodiac sign. I did it last year on Halloween, so you guys can check that out. I'll link it down below. And then for the sneak peek and warnings about Mercury in retrograde, I will have that on Patreon, and I will be doing a do's and don'ts video about Mercury in retrograde in Libra. So subscribe so you don't miss that. And on Instagram, I will have all the dates posted and a bunch of fun content daily. So you guys can follow my Instagram at AstroKit, and I'll see you, Taurus, in my next video. So let's get into what's happening for you, Virgo, in the month of October. Now, October brings with it this really specific sort of energy, which we will unpack in this prediction reading for you. And so we're really going to get into the major events in October, the energy in October, and how it manifests in your life personally, and also how it manifests in the collective at large. So with that being said, when it comes to energy in October, when it comes to events in October, I do have the full event list posted in the first timestamp of this video. I also have it posted on Instagram, so you guys can grab a screenshot so you have the dates. But when it comes to this energy, it really boils down to these themes of partnership, how we partner with people, our relationships, our love life. So let's get into what that means for you, Virgo. In the collective at large, these are the major themes for October. So the month of October really brings with it this energy of partnership, this energy of relationships, this energy of how we balance with people, how we create compromise, how we consider other people. And it's because Libra season is in October, of course, but also Mercury is going retrograde in the sign of Libra in October, which brings a little bit of messy energy with it. So we'll get into that in a second, what that Mercury retrograde represents for you. But in general, just know the month of October this year really brings this energy of partnership, boundaries, compromise, etc. Those 7th house themes, right? And so let's get into your month, Virgo. So when it comes to the first event of the month, we're having this full moon in Pisces. And so like I was telling Aries, when it comes to this full moon energy in your sister sign, you're really going to feel it very strongly since Pisces is your sister sign. Pisces is the opposite polarity to you. So you're having that full moon in your 7th house. And so you're really going to feel that partnership theme, that partnership, relationship, romance aspect, even more specifically in the beginning of the month since you're having that full moon energy in your 7th house. And what does that mean for you? It means that you're really focused on healing your partnerships. The Virgo Pisces polarity, those sister signs, is all about healing and health and how we deal with spiritual healing and physical healing, which is more Virgo is physical, and then Pisces is spiritual healing. So you might be doing a lot of spiritual healing with your partner, or spiritual healing more so in a metaphorical way about how you approach partnerships, healing maybe past traumas you've had with partnerships, and kind of healing that sort of like inner psychology, that inner approach to how you even deal with partnerships. I feel like Virgo, you are really focusing how you create boundaries with people. The 1st house, 7th house is all about boundaries. Virgo Pisces is definitely all about boundaries. You're somebody who probably knows quite a bit about boundaries and how to set them and if you have them or not. But in October, you're going to be focused specifically, Virgo, on how you set those boundaries with people, how you set those standards with people, how do you communicate those boundaries. It's one thing to have boundaries, but it's more important to communicate them, right? How do you even project that in a relationship? So you will be healing like those boundaries and how you set those boundaries and what those boundaries are even inclusive of in your life, especially with this full moon. You will be reflecting on that with the full moon on October 1st in the sign of Pisces in your 7th house. And so besides that, the major focus for you and what you're really focused on throughout the month is money, is finance. You're having your 2nd house, the house of money, activated for you throughout the month. You're having your sun in the 2nd house. You're also having the Mercury retrograde in Libra. We'll get to it in a second, in your 2nd house as well. But with the sun in your 2nd house, you're really focused on not only money, but also self-worth. 2nd house deals with self-worth, and how we feel about ourselves really ties to how much money we make. If we feel great about ourselves, if we have high self-esteem, if we're confident, we feel confident enough to believe that we can make X amount of money. But if we don't have that high self-esteem, then your income kind of mirrors that as well. And so Virgo, as a part of your like karmic trajectory, you're someone who might struggle with self-esteem issues. And so this month of October does help you kind of heal those self-esteem issues and really heal that inner dialogue that you have about yourself. Since you are a Virgo, I feel like Virgos can have that very critical inner dialogue and really, that really affects their self-esteem overall. So just know that's what you're really focused on healing in October is your self-esteem issues, if you have them. Maybe healing them through affirmations, affirming yourself, creating like a positive narrative about yourself. Those kind of self-healing activities are going to be really prominent in your life in October. But in a more like, I would say, superficial way, you will be focused on money and how you set balance to your finances, how you create a proper budget, how you spend money properly. It is Libra season, so you might be having that urge to spend money on just like random things that look good. Libra rules aesthetics. So you might be having that tug and pull of like, okay, how do I manage my money? How do I balance my money and not spend it too much on frivolous things? So money is a huge thing there, and self-worth is huge with the 2nd house. And so let's unpack this Mercury retrograde. So this Mercury retrograde is in the sign of Libra. So again, we're seeing that Libra theme, but out of all the retrogrades, I feel like this is the retrograde that a lot of exes will be reappearing in our lives. And specifically for you, you might have some exes reappear as well. People from the past. I feel like this is the quintessential, cliche exes coming from the past retrograde, just because it is in the sign of Libra. Libra is partnership, etc. So for you specifically though, I feel like since this energy is in your second house, the retrograde's in your second house, you will be having maybe old financial decisions resurface in your life. People from your childhood hitting you up, maybe some old family members hitting you up. Second house does rule family as well. It rules sort of like that childhood stage in our lives. And so you might have people from those arenas of life hitting you up. But in general, the second house retrograde does deal with reviewing your finances, reviewing how you spend money, how you make money, what is your self-worth, how is your self-worth connected to how much money you make, dealing with those self-esteem issues. So Mercury does rule speaking, talking, communicating. So you're really changing that inner dialogue. Like we talked about, Virgos can have that really critical inner dialogue that contributes to low self-esteem. But with this month of October, you are really healing that and taking proactive steps to heal that. And I get more into retrograde and the warnings about it and what to look out for, and even more into your zodiac sign on my Patreon. So if you guys want to see a sneak peek of retrograde and what it has in store for you, head to Patreon. But in general, just know it is impacting those things I just mentioned. And the other major thing happening for you in October is the North Node shift. So the North Node shift is happening officially on September 23rd. It's shifting today as you watch this. So the North Node shift, which I made a whole separate video about, North Node is about destiny and fate, and when it shifts signs, your destiny and fate shifts as well. So you guys can check that video out. If you missed it, I'll link it down below. But we're having the shift today, September 23rd. But we're really going to feel the official manifestation of the energy in October. It is the first full month with the North Node Rahu in Taurus. And so this is in your 9th house. Having this North Node energy really lights up and electrify your 9th house of travel and learning and knowledge. What I wrote down for you guys, which is really funny, is prepping your escape route. So 9th house is travel, and having the North Node go into that house for you, it's going to be this major focus on travel in the next 18 months for you. So since we're having this moment in time where Corona is ending in some parts of the world, or the restrictions that Corona has caused is ending in some places, you're probably the first one to be booking a flight in October, creating some sort of itinerary for December travels or New Year's travels. So you are prepping those travel decisions in October and prepping your escape route, so to speak, especially if you're in America and you're ready to leave. You are definitely prepping that in October because the North Node is going into your 9th house in October. And to get more into what that means for the full 18 months it will be there, head to that shift video, the North Node shift video. But just know travel is going to be kind of in your mind, in your consciousness in October as well. And so October is spooky season. October 31st is Halloween. And Halloween this year, there's a full moon in Aries on Halloween. So I'll be doing a special full moon spooky season Halloween video on my channel, so stay tuned for that. It's very on brand for this Halloween energy. But speaking of Halloween, I'm curious to know, what is your favorite Halloween costume? What is a costume that you've had before that was really funny or that you enjoyed? What is your costume this year if you want to share it? I have a video about costumes and zodiac signs that I did last year on my channel, so I'll link it down below if you guys want to check that out. And also for that sneak peek of Libra Mercury retrograde in Libra, head to my Patreon. And also I'll be doing a do's and don'ts video about Mercury retrograde on my channel, so you don't want to miss it. Subscribe so you don't miss it. And on my Instagram, I will be having the dates and October predictions posted as well, so head to my Instagram at Astrokit for more content. I'll see you Virgos in my next video. Let's talk about what's happening for you Capricorn in October. So the month of October does bring with it this really specific energy, and we're going to unpack what that energy is in October and how it affects you personally. So in October, overall, it has this energy magnified on partnerships, magnified on relationships, romance, and really how we connect with people and how we balance ourselves among other people. And so October does bring this very Libra theme because it is Libra season towards the end of the month, starting on the 16th in Sidereal Astrology, and Mercury is going retrograde in the sign of Libra. So we're having that strong energy, and we're going to talk about what this Mercury retrograde in Libra means for you in just a second. So let's get into the specifics and kind of unpack your chart in October, what it's looking like and how it's going to manifest for you in your regular life. So in October, the 10th house is really magnified for you, Capricorn. You're having a lot of energy in that part of your chart. Uniquely enough, you're a Capricorn. 10th house is linked to Capricorn. You're the 10th sign. So you are kind of feeling that almost like pre-Capricorn season energy. But with this 10th house energy, you're having the sun in your 10th house for most of October. So that means your focus, your awareness, that solar energy is really focused on your career. It's focused on your legacy, where you're headed in life. 10th house is about career, but it's also about our long-term goals and how we create those long-term goals to achieve what we want. And since you are a Capricorn, you are very passionate and very dedicated towards your long-term goals. And in October, that's going to be a strong focus for you, where you are focused on what your goals are, where you're headed in life. You're having a lot of, strong shift in your life, strong energy of transformation. You're having this Saturn, Jupiter, Pluto energy that's been going on all year. It's been happening in your first house. So you've been feeling like the brunt of like this 2020, this year of 2020. You've been feeling the burden of it all. And so October is the point in the year where you do sit down and reflect like, okay, so this is what has changed. This is what has happened. Let me plan my steps ahead. Let me plan some long-term goals. Let me plan out what I want my life to look like in the next couple years, what my legacy is, etc. And that does deal with career as well. What is your career direction? I feel like 10th house does deal a lot with direction. So I feel like that's a key word for you in October is your direction in life. And speaking of direction and speaking of 10th house, you're having the Mercury retrograde in Libra in your 10th house. And so we all know about retrograde. We all know about the cliche, like the exes are coming back to hit you up because of retrograde. But out of all of the retrogrades, that cliche is actually very true this time around because Libra rules partnership. It rules romantic partnerships. Having Mercury be retrograde in Libra, that means some exes might hit you up, people from your past might hit you up, but specifically since you're having the retrograde in your 10th house, the kinds of people that would more so hit you up is probably people from work, people from like past jobs. Like you might even get like a past job hit you up and asking you to come back to that job. Or even former bosses that you've had, supervisors also contacting you during this time. And so that's really going to play into that whole dynamic we talked about your direction in life, where you want to go. If you want to accept old offers, go back to old jobs. But when it comes to this retrograde energy, just know you will be reassessing your career, reassessing where you're headed in life, reassessing what your long-term goals are, reassessing what your plan is, and really creating balance to what you want your career to look like and what you want your career to eventually manifest as. And so with that being said, on Patreon, I do have like a sneak peek post about what retrograde looks like for your zodiac sign and the warnings about retrograde. So if you want more of a detailed list of like warnings and stuff, I have that on Patreon. And I will be doing a do's and don'ts video about retrograde too. So with that being said, let's finish up this reading though. So when it comes to the next event that's happening, the North Node will be going into Taurus. So as you watch this, the day that you watch this on September 23rd, the North Node, the point of destiny and fate, officially shifts into Taurus, shifting our fates and our destinies depending on our charts. And so we're ending the month of September with the North Node shift, but we're going to feel the bulk of that shift in October because it's the first full month with the node in Taurus and the South Node in Scorpio. So where is that landing in your chart, Capricorn? It is in your 5th house. So in October, you're really going to start feeling that manifestation of Rahu being in Taurus in your 5th house. And we really unpack that in the shift video. So if you missed the shift video about the North Node shift, your destiny and fate in the next 18 months, I will link that down below. But just to kind of reiterate it now, this shift does deal a lot with your personal pleasure, your own happiness, your own passions, your own hobbies. The next 18 months really deal with those themes. And since you're having this kind of like redirection moment in October where you kind of look at your compass and you're like, okay, where am I headed in life? You're reassessing that with that 10th house energy. You're kind of considering your personal happiness in that whole thing, which is a very significant thing for Capricorn because you are naturally very responsible and goal-oriented and can feel like you have a lot of burdens and work really hard in life. But 5th house energy being activated for you does represent this theme of happiness and pleasure and considering what makes you happy, considering what brings you pleasure, considering what is fun and entertaining for you, which is 5th house, and really working that into your life plan, which is 10th house, working that into your direction in life and not just being like, okay, here's the logical, work-oriented goals I have for myself, but also what are your goals that deal with your happiness as well and your hobbies and stuff. And so also that deals with children. So 5th house does rule children as well. So I mentioned pregnancy is huge for Capricorns in the next 18 months, which we talked about in the shift video. I'll link down below. But just know pregnancy is also another life theme for you at the moment, and especially in October you will be kind of thinking about like, okay, maybe I want to have kids in this time frame, and I want to do this in this time frame, and I want to make myself happy in this time frame, and you're making a new plan based on that personal happiness of yours based on children even, or having children. So with that being said, on October 31st it is Halloween. It is spooky season in October, and Halloween this year has a full moon in Aries. So Halloween this year is very on brand. It's very spooky. And I'll get into what that full moon in Aries means on Halloween and do like a spooky special about that. So stay tuned for that video. And with that being said, when it comes to Halloween, comment down below and tell me what is one of your favorite Halloween costumes? What is like a funny Halloween costume you've had in your life? What is your Halloween costume this year if you want to share? But tell me down below your favorite Halloween costume you've had. I did a Halloween costume Zodiac sign video on my channel last year, so I'll link that down below. And if you want that sneak peek of retrograde, the do's and don'ts, the warnings, I will be having that on my Patreon. Link it down below. And I'll be doing like a separate do's and don'ts video on my channel for Mercury retrograde in Libra in October. And also on my Instagram, I have the dates of the events in October posted, so you guys can head over there, screenshot it. And my Instagram is at astrokit. So with that being said, I will see you Capricorns in my next video. So Gemini, let's talk about what's happening for you in the month of October. In the month of October, next month, it is spooky season, and during the month of October there's a lot of events going on, and in this video we are going to break down a couple of those astrological events and really see how they manifest and shape your life during the month of October. And so speaking of those events, I have the full list of those events in this video. It's in the first timestamp, and it's also listed on my Instagram at astrokit. So you guys can go to those places if you want to screenshot that list so you have it in your records. So let's just get into it and let's talk about what spooky season, what October has for you, Gemini. Now this is for Gemini rising. You should watch predictions for your rising sign or your moon sign as well. So Gemini rising, moon, in Sidereal astrology. So with that being said, let's get into it. So October has this really strong theme of partnership, of balance, of relationships. It is Libra season midway through October, and not only is it Libra season, the sun will be in Libra starting October 16th, but Mercury goes retrograde also in the sign of Libra. So we're seeing this huge Libra theme in October. And what is Libra all about? It's about balance, consideration, partnerships. We're also seeing that theme of boundaries and standards and setting boundaries within our partnership because of the Pisces full moon at the beginning of the month. And then at the end of the month, we have an Aries full moon. So we have 2 full moons in 1 month, also Mercury retrograde in 1 month. And so in the collective energy, there's this huge, really strong manifestation of partnerships, considering our own self versus other people, etc., etc. So how exactly does this manifest for you specifically, Gemini? Well, this means that you're going to have very strong energy in your 5th house. Your 5th house in your birth chart is going to be really activated in October. And what is 5th house all about? It's about fun. It's about pleasure, creativity, dating, romance, and hobbies. And so you're having your sun in the 5th house for the bulk of the month. And what this means is that the sun really signifies this energy of focus and what our awareness is on for that month. And so since you're having the sun in your 5th house, you're going to be really focused on your creative projects, be focused on your creative hobbies, really focused on what brings you pleasure, what brings you fun, what are your passions. The 5th house really shows us in our charts what we love in life, what we're passionate about, what we love to do. And you're going to be really focused on those things in October, focused on your own happiness and pleasure. And you also might be very focused on romance as well, which brings me into Mercury in retrograde. So Mercury does go retrograde October 13th in the sign of Libra, and this retrograde is specifically very cliche because it's one of those retrogrades where a lot of our exes, if you have exes, are going to be resurfacing in our lives. I feel like retrograde is known for like the return of the exes hitting you up, etc. But for you, Gemini specifically, this is more magnified because it's happening in your 5th house. 5th house rules romances, and Mercury being in the sign of Libra, retrograde in the sign of Libra, Libra rules partnership. Definitely past flames are going to hit you up. Maybe people from your past romances, past boo things, situationships, etc. So because of that retrograde energy, you can expect people from your past to be hitting you up, especially past love flings or people you dated, or you can be hitting those people up as well. It goes both ways with this Libra Mercury energy. And so also on another note, with that retrograde energy in your 5th house, this is a time where you're picking up old hobbies. You're rediscovering what you truly love. Retrograde energy does relate to those R words of reassessment, realignment, and rebalance. And so you're really bringing more balance and realigning yourself to what your true passions are, what you truly want to do, what are your true loves in life, and maybe picking up old hobbies you forgot about, paying attention to past passions you kind of left alone, but then you kind of reignite that flame in October. And with that being said, that brings me into another thing I wanted to tell you guys, which is I will be doing a separate video about the do's and don'ts of Mercury in retrograde. And so you want to stay tuned for that video. And I also have the Mercury in retrograde, what this means for your zodiac sign and warnings for your sign, and even more specific knowledge about Mercury in retrograde on my Patreon. So if you want a sneak peek about Mercury in retrograde, what it means for your sign, and the warnings especially, head to Patreon, and I'll be posting that do's and don'ts video shortly, so you guys want to subscribe so you don't miss it. Brings me to the next major astrological event, and something that's really going to impact your energy, specifically Gemini, and that is Rahu going into Taurus. Now today, when you guys watch this on September 23rd, Rahu moves into Taurus. Rahu is the north node, and the south node, aka Ketu, moves into Scorpio. And I did a whole video about the shift, and like this is like a really huge deal. You guys can watch that video if you missed it, but essentially it's shifting September 23rd, but October is the first month where we really feel the manifestation of that official shift. So Rahu being in Taurus, Ketu being in Scorpio, this is happening in your 12th, 6th house axis, Gemini, which we already talked about in the shift video. But with Rahu being in your 12th house, you're going to go into this cycle, and you're initiating a new cycle where you are focusing more on inward reflection, focusing more on your spiritual journey, focusing more on healing, that internal healing. I feel like October is going to bring a lot of like past events up for you, past relationships, past people. The past is really magnified for you in October, Gemini, and it's because in terms of your spiritual journey at the moment, your astrological journey, you're supposed to be dealing with past events to heal them and move forward. So there's that energy of past things coming back to you, but it's more so to recognize them and heal them and deal with them face to face. So you're going to really deal with that energy of the past with Rahu being in your 12th house. Rahu being in the 12th house does trigger that sense of isolation, spirituality, being more in tune with your inner self instead of your physical self. So you're really going on that journey, and you're starting that journey in October, and it's going to last for 18 months, which we talked about in the shift video. But what I will say about this energy in October for you is that you're definitely going to be tapping into your hidden talents. The 12th house rules everything hidden that's activated for you in October, and the 5th house rules talents. 5th house is activated for you too in October. So you're going to really tap into what your talents are. Maybe you had a talent you had no idea you had. You can reignite an old hobby that you thought was just a hobby, but then it's like actually a talent that maybe you can monetize, you can show to the world. So you're really tapping into those hidden talents with this energy in October, and really tapping into your own creative process and kind of honing in your own energy inward rather than projecting it outward too much. You're going on this very inward journey starting in October, and you're really going to feel it with this retrograde energy bringing up the past for you. So with that being said, spooky season is in October and Halloween is in October. So Halloween, October 31st, there is a full moon in Aries, and it's going to be quite the spooky day indeed. So I will do a separate video about the full moon in Aries, so you guys can stay tuned for that later in October. But when it comes to Halloween, I'm curious to know, what are one of your favorite Halloween costumes that you've done? What is your Halloween costume this year? I did a video last year about zodiac signs and Halloween costumes, so you guys can check that video out. And so yeah, I'm curious to know if you had any like funny costumes, any costumes that were really memorable. Tell me down below. And if you guys want that sneak peek look at Mercury in retrograde before I even post it on my channel, and what the warnings are for your zodiac sign, head to my Patreon. I'll link that down below. And then for a list of the October dates and astrological events and also more astrology content, head to my Instagram at AstroKit, and I'll see you Geminis in my next video. So Libra, let's talk about what's happening for you in October. So October is significant for you, especially because it is a Libra season coming up. So happy birthday if you're a Libra. And we're going to get into what October looks like for you and how the major astrological events are going to impact you, and the general energies in the air and that are surrounding you are going to influence your life directly. So let's just get into it. Now this is for Libra risings or Libra moons. Usually you should watch your prediction for your rising sign, and I am using the sidereal dates for this prediction. So with that out of the way, let's just get into it. Now October is definitely an interesting month. It is spooky season, it is Halloween, and it is quite the month indeed, just because we are having Mercury go retrograde, and we're also having the sun be in Libra, and we're having this really magnified energy of Libra present. We're going to talk about Mercury going retrograde in a second, what that means for you. But when it comes to this general energy, it does deal with partnership. It deals with all things Libra, right? So aesthetics, beauty, partnership, balance, and we're having the full moon kick off the month in the sign of Pisces. We're ending the month in another full moon in Aries, and the sign of Pisces, the sign of Aries, the sign of Libra, in one way or another really deals with the themes of boundaries, the themes of standards, the themes of negotiation, and how we negotiate our standards and boundaries in partnerships. So that's a huge theme in the collective in October, is boundary setting and partnership and romance, and how we even navigate those very important topics in all of our lives. But what does this mean specifically for Libras? Now, this means that the energy that I just described is really going to be focused in your first house. So first house is the house of self, is the house of your physical appearance. And during the month of October, you're going to have the sun in your first house. So you're really going to be focused on yourself, focused on your own physical appearance. You're going to have more awareness about your relationships as well. I mean, you are a Libra, so you're probably always usually focused on relationships in some way or another. But when it comes to October, you're really going to be focused on boundary setting. In October, you're more so going to be focused on how you communicate yourself to other people, how you stand up for yourself, how do you defend yourself, how do you project your self-worth in partnerships, and really how do you set those boundaries with people. You're really going to be focused on relationships in October, of course, but from the perspective of yourself. I feel like with Libras, you're someone who really focuses on other people a lot and helping other people and being someone who does support people. But in October, you're more so focused on yourself and really thinking about, okay, how do people support me? How do people respect me? And really thinking about yourself in a very selfish way, but I would say like a selfish, healthy sort of way. So that brings me into Mercury in a retrograde. So Mercury goes retrograde in your sign, so it goes retrograde in your first house. So if you can kind of see the theme here, your first house is really activated in October, and we already talked about what the first house means. But with Mercury going retrograde, this is definitely like the cliche Mercury retrograde where like all of your exes from your past come to hit you up again. You're gonna have a resurfacing of people from your past, people you've dated, literally people coming out of the woodwork. You're gonna really feel that, especially since you're a Libra. Mercury's going retrograde in Libra, and first house is opposite the 7th house of partnerships. You're having that focused energy in your first house. So either way, partnerships is really magnified, and people coming from your past might also be a theme for you in October. And even beyond partnerships, like I said, first house deals a lot with self. So you might be doing some things to your appearance in October. Maybe you get new hair, new makeup. October or like retrograde isn't a great time to like change your looks, but I'll talk about that more on like Patreon. When it comes to retrograde in your first house, you might be rebranding yourself, reassessing what you look like, reassessing your physical appearance. Maybe you want to be perceived a different way moving forward after October. And so usually the way you look does kind of set that precedent of how people treat you. So you might be changing your looks up a bit, changing your hair, like I said, and just changing something about your appearance. You might be feeling really unsettled about your appearance. And like I said, I will be going more into like warnings about retrograde and like the sneak peek of retrograde on Patreon. It's already posted on my Patreon, so you guys can head there if you want like the warnings and more of like an in-depth review of retrograde for your sign. But just know it's in your first house. First house is appearance, it is personality, it is how you perceive the world. So expect to be reassessing those first house themes in your life and really trying to bring balance to your own self, your own identity. First house is also identity, so you're really bringing balance to who you are and what you want your personality to be and what you want to project into this world. And so that brings me to the other event, which is the North Node shift. So we already talked about the North Node shift in the North Node shift video. I'll link it down below. If you guys missed it, it's such an important day of the year, if not the most important day of the year. As you guys watch this, the North Node shifts into Taurus on this day, so September 23rd. However, it shifts September 23rd at the end of September, but October is the first month, the first full month where we really feel that manifestation of the North Node shifting. And the North Node stays in 2 signs for 18 months. And so you can almost think of October as the initiation stage of the next 18 months with this North Node, South Node energy. And so for you, Libra, this is in your 8th second house axis. So Rahu, aka the North Node, is going to be in your 8th house for 18 months. And how this manifests specifically though in October is that you're going to start this cycle of transformation. 8th house is about transformation. We get more into that energy of the 8th house in the shift video. Like I said, it's linked down below. But when it comes to October and how it really meshes with your overall prediction, you're going to be transforming your appearance. 8th house is about transformation. It is about radical change, sudden change, ups and downs. That kind of extreme energy is really seen through the 8th house. So you can expect to change your appearance extremely, change it drastically, really change your outlook on the world drastically. You can have this kind of epiphany moment where you're like, okay, maybe you extremely always focus on other people, but then you go to the other extreme of focusing on yourself. So like I said, that selfish energy is present for you, but I feel like a lot of Libras need more selfishness in their lives, just because you guys do care a lot about other people. But sometimes that selfish energy is needed to kind of move you forward in life. So you can expect maybe some of that extreme energy to start manifesting in October, especially with your appearance, since your first house is activated, 8th house is activated. So maybe letting go of old past aesthetics of yours. Libra rules aesthetics. Maybe you had one aesthetic throughout the year, but now you're like, okay, I want this new aesthetic. I want this new hair. I want this new makeup. I want to shave my head, etc. The list goes on. So there's this huge emphasis on physical transformation for you, and even spiritual transformation, and just transforming your mind, how you look at things, and really transformation is this theme really strong for you in October, Libra. So with that being said, October is spooky season. It is Halloween on October 31st. And funny enough, what's interesting is that we have a full moon in Aries on Halloween. So we have a full moon on Halloween, which is very on brand. So I will be talking more about that full moon in another video. It's going to be like a spooky season special video. But for now, tell me down below, what is one of your favorite Halloween costumes? What is one of your favorite, most like memorable costumes costumes you've had. Maybe you can tell me what you're going to be this year for Halloween. I feel like spooky season is definitely going to be really strong this year. So tell me down below. And then if you want that sneak peek and warnings for your sign about retrograde, Mercury retrograde in the sign of Libra, head to my Patreon. And then on my Instagram at AstroKit, I will have that full list of dates of the events in October, as well as more astrological content daily. So head to my Instagram as well. Follow me at AstroKit. Also on TikTok at AstroKit. So I'll have everything linked down below, and I'll see you Libras in my next video. So Aquarius, let's talk about what's happening for you in the month of October. So the month of October is coming up, and October is spooky season. It is Halloween, and we're going to get into the astrological events in the month of October and how they will influence you directly. Now, October has some strong events. We do have Mercury going retrograde in October, which we'll talk about in a second. But we also have this collective energy in October that is really centered around partnership, centered around love, romance, and how we partner with people, what our relationships are, who we partner with, because it is Libra season. And so that Libra season energy is strong. Mercury is going retrograde in Libra, and so Libra is a very strong archetype we're going to feel in October. And we're starting off the month with the full moon in Pisces, and we're ending the month in a full moon with the full moon in Aries. And we're having two full moons in 1 month, which I'll get into in a second. But the full moon energy in those signs, especially the sign of Pisces, does trigger that sense of boundary setting, trigger that sense of how we set standards and boundaries and stand up for ourselves in partnerships. So not only is partnerships the focus in October, but also how we navigate partnerships, how we negotiate, how we really set those boundaries. And so we're going to get into what that manifests for you, or manifests like for you in October. Aquarius, rising or moon. You should watch your prediction for your rising sign mostly, or your moon sign. So let's just get into it. Aquarius. So when it comes to this Libra energy, we can look to where you have a Libra in your chart to see where your chart is really lit up for the month. And you have Libra in your 9th house. So for you, Aquarius, you have the sign of Libra in your 9th house. And so 9th house themes are going to be really magnified in the month of October for you. What is 9th house all about? 9th house is about expansion, travel. It's about higher consciousness, higher learning, knowledge. It's about this theme of really raising your spiritual consciousness as well. So spirituality is seen with the 9th house. It's also the house that is relative to destiny and fortune. So you can expect October, Aquarius, to be a pretty lucky month for you, especially towards the end. But let's get into specifics and unpack this month for you. So the first thing I want to talk about is Sun in the 9th house. So for the bulk of October, you will have your Sun in the 9th house because it is Libra season. The Sun's going to be in Libra. Your 9th house is Libra. So your focus, your awareness, that solar energy is really on expanding your life, expanding your horizons, going past the boundaries, really breaking that glass ceiling. That's what I really think about when I think about the 9th house, is like breaking any boundary, breaking any ceiling, which is a very known Aquarius thing to do. So you're really on brand in October, where you're like breaking boundaries, breaking rules, maybe just kind of going beyond where you have been for the entire year and like really elevating yourself. Elevation is a huge keyword for you in October. And so you can expect maybe more of your focus to be on travel, focusing on spirituality as well, kind of planning your next moves forward, which I will talk about in a second with that 4th house activation for you. But when it comes to this 9th house energy, just expect to be really focused on learning, gaining higher knowledge. You might be also doing like an online course or getting knowledge about something you're passionate about, learning a new subject, learning a new language. It's a pretty good month to like pick up a new language if you wanted to. Something along those lines that does deal with 9th house themes of like teaching, learning, education, and even travel, learning about things like that, languages, etc. So expect your focus to be on that. And then that brings me into the Mercury in retrograde. So Mercury goes retrograde in the sign of Libra on October 13th. And this is happening again in your 9th house. So this Mercury retrograde energy does trigger that sense of reassessment, realignment. And it's so powerful in October because it's in the sign of Libra, which is represented by the scales. It's represented by justice. It's represented by balance. So not only are you reassessing things and reassessing ninth house related themes in your life, but also rebalancing those things. So I do see for you during this retrograde, and what it means for you is that it's about realigning your beliefs, reassessing your beliefs. Maybe you've had a certain belief system this entire year, but now you're like, wait, do I really believe that? Do I want to move forward with that? And really focusing on what is the truth. That's what ninth house really deals with, is the sense of truth and justice. What is the most just path? What is the most righteous path? What is the truth overall? So you're really tapping into your own personal truth, your own sense of belief systems, and really reassessing what you truly believe to be true. And really setting balance to those beliefs as well. I feel like with the Aquarius archetype, you're also someone who can struggle with extremes as well. And struggle with dogmatism, or struggle with believing one way and being stubborn and stuck on that way. But ninth house kind of opens your mind in a way. So I feel like in this retrograde season, you're going to be kind of reflecting and reassessing, like, okay, here's this extreme, here's this extreme. Maybe you think in extremes, for example, or think extreme beliefs about certain things, or have extreme opinions. But with Libra season, it brings that balance to those extremes. So expect kind of like that balancing of extremes when it comes to your belief system and what you believe, your opinions, your spiritual beliefs, etc. It's going to be really emphasized for you in October. And so I want to touch on what I just talked about, which is that theme of your next move. And in my shift video, we talked about that fourth house activation, because the North Node is going into Taurus September 23rd. So the day you watch this, the North Node has shifted into the sign of Taurus, which is a really huge deal, if not the biggest event or deal of this year. And so what this means for you, Aquarius, is that you're having the North Node go into your fourth house, aka Rahu. So Rahu is the North Node, Ketu is the South Node. And so Rahu and Ketu are going into your 10th house axis, which we really unpack more in the shift video. I'll link that down below if you guys missed it. But when it comes to that fourth house energy being activated with Rahu, this means relocation. This means moving. This means being really focused on your home life. Fourth house is about this theme of home. It literally represents your home and your living environment. So I feel like you're initiating this new 18-month cycle, because the North Node stays in one sign for 18 full months. You're initiating this next year and a half in October. You're going to feel that new energy really initiate itself in October, and you're initiating this new cycle towards expansion and happiness within your home. So for a lot of you guys, you are making those relocation plans in October. You're making those travel plans in October. You're making those plans to maybe move out of the country, potentially move to a different state, move to a different city, move to a different apartment, home, etc. There's a huge emphasis on moving for Aquarius, and not just moving, but really relocating your whole life, relocating anywhere you've been for a while. Any comfort zone you've had is going to be shifted in October, and it's kind of like this fresh new beginning for you, Aquarius, especially when it comes to where you live. So expect to kind of set the plans in motion in October to move. Some of you guys might literally be moving in October, especially like very abruptly or unexpectedly, because Rahu does kind of trigger that unexpected energy. But if you aren't in the space to like move right away in October, you will be kind of setting those plans in motion. So you guys can expect that. And even if you don't move, I feel like a lot of you guys are going to start traveling soon, or like initiating new travel plans. Maybe you want to travel in December or New Year's, etc. I feel like the travel restrictions will be a bit more lifted because Jupiter went direct already, which I did a video about. But I would say it is pretty much like a green light to kind of like make those moving plans, travel plans, depending where you live in the world. So that is really exciting for you, Aquarius. And like I said, it is spooky season. It is Halloween in October, and there is a full moon on October 31st on Halloween. So there's a full moon. It is really on brand with like that spooky season energy. And so I'll be doing a separate video about like the full moon, what that means. But until that video, tell me down below. I'm curious to know, what is one of your favorite Halloween costumes that you've done? What is a memorable one? What is like a really funny one you've done? Maybe tell me down below if you want to share what your costume is this year. And if you're dressing up, I did a video last year about zodiac signs and Halloween costumes. So if you guys want some ideas, I have that video. I'll link it down below. It's just like a fun random video I did last Halloween. And then also if you want a sneak peek of retrograde and warnings, especially for your zodiac sign, because there are a lot of warnings when it comes to retrograde, I'll have that on my Patreon, and I'll be doing a separate like do's and don'ts video about retrograde on my channel shortly. So subscribe so you don't miss that. And also on my Instagram, I have the full list of events for October, so you guys can head to my Instagram, follow me for more daily content as well. And then also follow me on TikTok for more astrology content, and I will see you Aquarius in my next video. So Cancer, let's talk about what's happening for you in the month of October and really unpack how the astrological events happening in October will influence you personally. Now, the month of October, in a general sense, it really brings forth the themes of relationships, the themes of boundaries, the themes of romance and dating and all of those things, because it is Libra season midway through October in Sidereal astrology, and also Mercury is going retrograde in the sign of Libra. So we'll get into that Mercury retrograde, what it means for you, in a second, but just know this Libra archetype is really magnified in October in the collective, in the general theme, and therefore that Libra archetype brings forth this energy of balance, this energy of boundary setting, this energy of how we negotiate partnerships. Libra is really about that theme of negotiation, that theme of fairness and balance and justice and all of those themes. So let's get into what that means for you specifically, Cancer, and how this is influencing your specific chart. So you should be watching this for your rising sign. So Cancer rising is watching this, Sidereal Cancer rising, Sidereal Cancer moon, so you're probably tropical Leo rising if you're watching this. So let's just get into it. And the way we're going to really see how this Libra energy, this partnership energy influences you is by seeing where Libra is in your chart. So if you're Cancer rising, you have Libra, the sign of Libra, in your 4th house. And so that means your 4th house is really activated for you in October. And so what is 4th house all about? It's about home, family. It's about the past as well. And 4th house is kind of like the natural house of Cancer because you're the 4th zodiac sign, 4th house. You're all about home and family as well. So that 4th house energy is really magnified for you. I feel like in October, it's actually kind of like a boneless Cancer season for you because that retrograde energy is present, 4th house energy. So it's going to feel almost like Cancer season for you specifically this time around. But let's get into more of what this looks like for you and how it's going to manifest in your regular life. So when it comes to that Libra energy, it's all about balance. Your 4th house is activated. So in October, you're really going to be focused on home and bringing balance to your home. The sun's going to be in your 4th house, and your focus is going to be on your living surroundings, your living environment, also the sense of inner happiness as well. I feel like with the 4th house, metaphorically, it does deal with your like private life and how you feel on the inside. It really deals with that inner sense of happiness. And the 10th house, the opposite house, does deal with your public self, your public persona. So in October, you're going to feel that polarity more of like the 4th house energy. We're more so focused on how you feel on the inside. How do you really cultivate that sense of emotional happiness, that emotional foundation? 4th house is all about foundations and really how we set those foundations in our life. So if you've been feeling like you're kind of like on a wobbly foundation, if you want to check in with yourself, October is the month for that. October is the month where you do kind of check back in and check in with your inner happiness. And 4th house does rule the past. So you're going to be really focused on the past as well, past events. That's why I said it's more of like a boneless Cancer season for you, because it is like that 4th house nostalgic energy. You're really going to be feeling that nostalgic vibe in October and having those nostalgic memories really come forth to your consciousness during the month. 4th house does rule memories too, so you're going to be really thinking about those memories. And fun fact too, I feel like Cancers usually have a pretty good memory. You guys are ruled by the 4th house, and so you probably don't forget anything. Anyway, so let's get into this Mercury in retrograde. So Mercury does go retrograde October 13th, so about midway through the month, and it lasts until like the end of the month. But like I said, I will have those dates on Instagram, so you guys can screenshot those there, or in this video, in the first timestamp, I have the list there too. But when it comes to this Mercury retrograde in the sign of Libra, again, that Libra archetype is activated with the retrograde energy. Retrograde does trigger that sense of reassessment, reviewing things, realigning things, rebalancing things. Libra is the sign of balance. So again, you're having that really nostalgic, really reassessment sort of vibe already from the 4th house. It's almost like a double influence or magnified influence of that reviewing, reassessment energy. And so what this means for you is that you might have past people coming into your life, maybe exes, people you've dated. I feel like a lot of people's exes are going to come back to like come out of the woodwork in October, just because Mercury's going retrograde in Libra, which is the sign of partnership. And so you might experience that too, but specifically since it's happening in your 4th house, you might have past family members come out of the woodwork. You might have past people that were in your life once, especially in childhood. 4th house does deal with your ancestors. It deals with childhood on a certain level as well. It deals with family overall. So you might have people or past family members coming to hit you up or reconnecting with past family members as well. That's definitely a theme for Cancer specifically. With Mercury retrograde in your 4th house, you're reassessing your living situation. You're reassessing where you live, what your environment is like. Is your environment conducive to your happiness? That is the main question you are contemplating in October, and kind of realigning your entire space in a physical way, but also maybe in a metaphorical way, like thinking about moving somewhere new or changing your room around or moving to a different city, etc. Some of you guys might be moving in a literal sense or be thinking about that, but I feel like in October a lot of you guys will literally be moving your room around, moving around your space a bit more just to feel more happy with yourself, and really focusing on that theme of comfort. 4th house deals with comfort and how comfortable we are in our space. So you're really focusing on that in October, and especially with this retrograde in Libra, you are focusing on bringing balance and harmony within your own home, bringing balance and harmony within your family as well, if there's been tension in your family lately. So I get more into like the warnings of retrograde and what to look out for, and even more specifically what it means for your sign on Patreon. So if you guys want to know more about that, go to Patreon. I will be doing a separate video about the do's and don'ts of retrograde as well. But that brings me to the next event, which is the North Node shift. Now, the North Node shift is the biggest event of the year, and we already talked about the North Node shift and what it means for you in the North Node shift video. I'll link it down below. And the day that you watch this, the North Node, aka Rahu, actually goes into Taurus. So it's been in Gemini for the past 18 months, and starting today, September 23rd, it's in Taurus, and it triggers this new cycle pertaining to what house it enters in our charts. And so we get into that in the shift video. However, I will touch on it again in this video because in October it's the first full month that we have that nodal shift. So on September 23rd, we kind of end the month with the shift energy, but October is that first full month of the next 18 months where we do experience like a new cycle in our lives. For you, Cancer, how this is relevant in October is that you're having Rahu go into your 11th house. 11th house is all about gains. It's about the internet. It's about social networking. And so you're starting this new cycle towards social elevation, gaining new opportunities to achieve your desires, right? And that's going to unfold for you for the next year and a half. But in October, I see you guys starting your own at-home business. So if you haven't started your own business yet, if you haven't launched a business yet, I feel like many of you guys could have been kind of like thinking about a business during quarantine, especially. I feel like a lot of people were doing that. But specifically for you, Cancer, I feel like October is the month where you do start that online business from home. It's going to be very successful if you start it from home. I talked about that more in the shift video, so you guys can go watch that video, but just know that 11th house does rule internet, and then your 4th house is activated, which is ruled by home. So that theme of home, internet, combine it, at-home business is definitely what is in the stars for you, Cancer. The combination of 11th house and 4th house energy does trigger that theme of at-home business and starting your own online business at home. And I feel like if you guys started it in October, it'd be really successful. That's definitely in the stars for Cancers. And so with all of that being said, October is spooky season. October is Halloween. October 31st, we're actually having a full moon in Aries. So Halloween this year is very on brand with that very spooky theme, with the full moon on literally the day of Halloween. And I'll be doing like a separate like spooky season full moon video for that, so stay tuned for that later in October. But for now, tell me down below, what is one of your favorite Halloween costumes? What is something you dressed up as, like maybe for fun, or what's something that's kind of funny or memorable that you dressed up as in the past? If you want to share your costume this year, if you're dressing up, comment down below as well. And on On Patreon, I will have those warnings and a sneak peek at retrograde posted, so you guys can head to my Patreon at AstroKit. On Instagram, I will have that full list of events and also more daily content about more shifts and daily astrological events on Instagram, so follow me at AstroKit. On TikTok as well, follow me at AstroKit again. So I'll link everything down below, and I'll see you Cancers in my next video. Okay, so Scorpio, let's talk about what's happening for you in October. So the month of October does bring with it this energy that deals a lot with partnership, that deals a lot with relationships, and that's because it is Libra season in October, starting October 16th in Sidereal Astrology, and Mercury is going retrograde in the sign of Libra in October. So we're going to get into that retrograde and talk about what Mercury in retrograde means for you, specifically Scorpio rising or moon. So you should watch your predictions. I usually do predictions based on rising signs. You can watch it for your moon sign as well. So Sidereal Scorpio rising, Sidereal Scorpio moon, this is relevant for. So with that being said, let's get into October and talk about how this general astrological energy and these astrological events happening are going to impact you in your personal life, Scorpio. So the first thing I want to talk about is this Libra energy. It's really the strongest archetype we're going to feel in October. And what is Libra all about? Libra is about partnerships. Libra is about relationships. Libra is about romance, aesthetics. It also deals with, on a more like serious level, it does deal with balance. It does deal with justice. It does deal with harmony and how to create balance within our lives. So that's definitely the collective energy. But let's look into what this Libra archetype has in store for you specifically in your life. So when it comes to this Libra energy, how we can see it manifesting in your chart, Scorpio, is by looking at where you have Libra in your chart. So you have Libra in your 12th house. And 12th house is about isolation. 12th house is about this theme of spirituality. It also deals with foreign lands. It deals with this strong theme of inner reflection, inner healing. It's this house that does rule hidden things, it rules secrets. So it's a house that is more so dealing with our inner self rather than our public self. And you're going to feel that energy in October of wanting to be more private, more inwardly turned. During the month, you're going to have the sun in your 12th house, and sun does rule awareness and focus. And so your awareness and focus is going to be on your own spiritual journey in October, on your own spiritual, I would say, beliefs, your own spiritual consciousness, and how you really have spiritual practices, meditate, those things that you do to feel more close with your spirituality. So I will say October is like this incubation period month for you, because Scorpio season does start in November in Sidereal Astrology, and so it's kind of like your incubation period before it's your season. And so when we talk about the November predictions, you're going to be probably more like front and center, more outgoing, but for the month of October you're more inwardly turned, because it's like your incubation 12th house period before your first house activation starts. So that 12th house activation is a little bit more private, isolated, etc. That's your October. And you're really bringing balance, I would say, to your inner self, bringing balance to your spiritual practices, bringing balance to your inner thoughts as well. That theme of balance is really strong, right? So 12th house themes we talked about are going to be present for you and bringing balance to those themes. And that brings me into Mercury in retrograde. So Mercury does go retrograde. We all know about Mercury in retrograde at this point. And if you guys don't know about it, I have a video about it, I think, on my channel. I'll link it down below if I can find it. But I'll be doing a separate do's and don'ts video for this retrograde coming up, so stay tuned for that. But when it comes to Mercury retrograde, it is happening in the sign of Libra. So again, it's happening in your 12th house. And I feel like with this retrograde, it does deal a lot with this theme of thinking about the past for you. Retrograde does trigger that sense of reassessment. It does trigger that sense of nostalgia and realigning and rebalancing things, right? And so you're really going to be rebalancing your past. The 12th house rules the past as well. 12th house rules endings as well. So you are kind of closing out certain things in your life, closing out certain relationships potentially, I feel like that's another thing too with Mercury retrograde in Libra, is that relationships, like old exes, are definitely coming back to haunt you in spooky season. Or like exes from your past are just going to come out of the woodwork. I feel like that's going to happen for a lot of people in October, just because Libra season, retrograde, Libra is partnership. So expect some exes to come out of the woodwork that you didn't expect. But in general, in a more like metaphorical, individual sense, you will be rebalancing those kind of inner, I would say, values you have when it comes to spirituality, rebalancing your like chakras, for example, rebalancing your energy on the inside. 12th house rules everything we don't see. So all those intangible things about ourselves, like our energy, our aura, our thoughts, our subconscious mind, is going to be like a focal point for you, and you're going to be bringing balance to those specific things. So that brings me to the next event, which is also, I forgot to say, with this retrograde, if you guys want a sneak peek about this retrograde, what it means for you in a more in-depth sense, and also what the warnings are for this retrograde, I have it posted on my Patreon. So if you want that sneak peek, head to my Patreon, Astro Kit, and then I will be doing a separate video about the do's and don'ts, so you guys want to stay tuned for that when it comes to that retrograde event. But moving on, when it comes to October, again, in October, the North and South Node are going to be officially in Taurus and Scorpio, and we talked about that North and South Node shift, Rahu Ketsu shift, in my shift video. So if you guys missed it, I'll link it down below. It's like the biggest event of the year, and the day that you guys watch this, September 23rd, the shift is literally today. And we're ending the month with that shift, and I already talked about it, what it means and stuff, but October is the first full month where we feel that official nodal shift. It's the first full month of the 18-month period that triggers the entire cycle of the North and South Node being in Taurus and Scorpio, because they stay in two signs for a full 18 months, aka a year and a half. And so what does this mean, Scorpio? This means that North Node is going to be in your 7th house, South Node is going to be in your 1st house. So we talked about that like 1st house, 7th house axis in the shift video. But why is this relevant in October? It's relevant because, like I said, it's the first full month with the shift energy, and I feel like this 7th house North Node you're going to feel, this 1st house South Node you're going to feel, combined with this 12th house energy you have, does trigger this new cycle towards relationships for you. I feel like in October you're going to have this intense, I would say, almost like cathartic moment or series of moments where you really do release your old self. That theme of incubation is present with the 12th house. 12th house literally rules the womb. And so North Node rules this kind of abrupt change that is happening for you. And South Node rules that sense of change as well. So South Node being in your 1st house, you are changing yourself literally, transforming yourself. And then 12th house, you're really transforming specifically your inner self. And having this moment where you kind of rebirth yourself, or it's like this new version of Scorpio is going to be really front and center during your season, and you're really releasing old versions of yourself, releasing old people. You're just like releasing the past, and you're focusing on this new beginning, especially with a new partner or a new engagement, a new marriage that you have, a new serious partner, because serious partnership is a focus for you for the next 18 months with North Node Taurus and your 7th house of partnerships. If you want more of like an in-depth like step-by-step summary of that, I have that in the shift video. But just in general, I feel like this 12th house energy we talked about combined with 7th house energy and 1st house energy, you are like being reborn in a sense. You are really releasing old versions of yourself and treading the new path with a new person. So that being said, it is spooky season, like I said, and on specifically like on Halloween, the literal day of Halloween, we are having a full moon in Aries. So not only are we starting the month on October 1st with a full moon, we are ending the month with a full moon again. So that's pretty rare to have. And so I'll be doing a separate video about like the full moon, spooky season, etc. So stay tuned for that on October 31st. But when it comes to October, when it comes to spooky season and Halloween, I'm curious to know what is one of your favorite Halloween costumes that you had, or even like one of the most funny costumes you've had before. Tell me down below. And if you want to share what you're dressing up as this year, then also tell me your costume this year too. I'm curious to know what you guys are dressing up as. Last year I did a video about zodiac signs and Halloween costumes, so if you want some ideas, go to that video. It's kind of like a funny random video I did for last Halloween. And also, if you want a sneak peek of Mercury in retrograde, head to my Patreon. If you want the warnings, more in-depth analysis, etc., Patreon at AstroKit. Instagram, I have the full list of events for October and like summaries and daily updates, etc., about astrology. So head to my Instagram, follow me at AstroKit. Also follow me on TikTok at AstroKit. Everything will be linked down below. So I'll see you Scorpios in my next video. Okay, so Pisces, let's talk about what's happening for you in the month of October. So October brings with it this really strong energy that is relative towards partnerships. And that's because in October it is Libra season starting October 16th in Sidereal Astrology, and it's also Mercury retrograde, and it's happening in the sign of Libra. And we'll get into that Mercury retrograde, what it means for you and your zodiac sign, in a second. But in general, in the collective energy, there's this emphasized sense of the Libra archetype. And what does the Libra archetype deal with? It deals with all things relating to balance, partnership, relationships, how we balance ourselves in partnerships, how we negotiate our boundaries, how do we set boundaries with people. And even more specifically, on October 1st, we are having a full moon in Pisces. So we're having a full moon in your sign, which we'll get to in a second. But when it comes to Libra, when it comes to Pisces, when it comes to Aries, which is also the full moon on October 31st, is in the sign of Aries, we're having all of these signs and archetypes being magnified. But what is the commonality between all of those zodiac signs? It is boundaries. It is partnerships. It is those signs that deal with self versus other people. So that is a huge collective theme for us. So let's get into what this means specifically for you, Pisces, and specifically Pisces rising. So in my prediction videos, I do it based on rising signs, or you can watch it for your moon sign too. And it's also based on sidereal astrology. So it's sidereal Pisces rising, sidereal Pisces moons. You're probably a tropical Aries watching this if you're a sidereal Pisces rising. So with that being said, let's get into October and talk about how this collective energy I just mentioned is really going to influence your life on a day-to-day basis. So October, spooky season, Halloween season. I'll get into like Halloween in a second, but when it comes to where your focus is at for October, I talked about Libra being the main archetype here. And where is Libra in your chart? If you're a Pisces rising, Libra is in your 8th house. So Libra is your 8th house sort of ruler. You have that Libra energy in your 8th house. And what is 8th house all about? 8th house is about transformation. 8th house is about joint finances with other people. It does deal with finance in an indirect way. And 8th house does deal with the sense of spirituality. It deals with the sense of our subconscious mind. It deals with extremes as well. So you can kind of think about like those kind of Scorpio themes really relative to the 8th house, because 8th house is connected with Scorpio. And so in October, Pisces, you're going to have the sun in your 8th house. And so what this means is that your awareness and your focus is going to be on more of like the intangible side of life. So you're going to be really focused on potentially your own subconscious mind, transforming your mind, transforming your thoughts, transforming your own inner spiritual self. As a Pisces, you're someone who's probably naturally very spiritual. And so you're having this other spiritual house, which is the 8th house, be activated. So your focus and awareness is on that sense of spiritual transformation, that sense of changing yourself from within, not just changing yourself physically, changing yourself on a superficial level, but also changing yourself in an internal level. And not just changing yourself, not just transforming yourself, but bringing inner balance within yourself. I think I was talking about this with Aquarius, but I feel like Pisces is another sign where you guys do struggle with extremes, or you can struggle with extremes. And 8th house is the house of extremes, so you might be really putting balance, Libra, and that Libra archetype is activated, so you're bringing that more balanced Libra energy to any extremes you feel within yourself. So if you've been struggling with certain extremes between like how you think about yourself, your beliefs, your internal dialogue, your subconscious beliefs, all of those inner, more intangible spiritual aspects of yourself, you're kind of bringing more balance to those parts of yourself in October. So expect major internal change in October. Even though Libra is the sign of aesthetics, I feel like you are really diving more deep into your own spiritual journey in October and really changing yourself from the inside out. So expect change and transformation to be really in your awareness in October. So that brings me to the Mercury retrograde. So Mercury officially goes retrograde October 13th. Mark your calendars. This one's going to be a bit messy because it's in the sign of Libra. So Libra, again, is the main archetype here. And what does Libra rule? Libra rules partnerships. It rules relationships. And retrograde does deal with the past. It deals with your exes coming from the past. So I feel like that's the cliche retrograde, like, joke that always gets circulated around is, oh, exes come back during that time. You want to hit up your ex. It's like all about exes, right? But this is like literally the retrograde where that is actually quite true, because Libra is the sign that retrograde is happening in. So some of your exes might be coming up from the past, especially like exes you don't really want to see. I feel like with retrograde being in your 8th house, you're having your sun in the 8th house, retrograde in the 8th house. 8th house kind of deals with those things we don't want to deal with. 8th house deals with kind of like toxicity. So I feel like some exes you don't really want to see, or people from your past you don't want to talk to, or just like exes in general might hit you up. You might have the urge to hit up people. So just know specifically for you Pisces, your exes might come back into your life. And that reminds me, I am doing a video about the do's and don'ts of this retrograde. So I'll be posting that shortly on my channel. You guys don't want to miss that video. And then also I have on Patreon like the warning signs of retrograde and like a sneak peek of retrograde before it happens on Patreon. So if you want like a in-depth sneak peek and warnings, head to Patreon, and I will be posting that other video too. But on another note though, with this retrograde, besides partnerships, I feel like for you Pisces, it does deal with this sense of setting balance to your inner self. There's this huge theme of inner work, shadow work. I feel like Pisces is going to be doing a lot of shadow work during October and really digging deep into your subconscious mind, digging deep into those shadowy parts of yourself that maybe you don't really acknowledge on a regular basis. But with this shadow work and with retrograde, it does deal with kind of setting balance to your shadow, setting balance to those dark parts of yourself. So I feel like that's another huge key theme for you with retrograde, is just setting balance to your inner subconscious mind and having this more balanced mental health. So I feel like mental health is a huge theme for you. And with retrograde specifically, you are setting balance to your subconscious mind and doing that inner shadow work in a balanced way with the intention of achieving balance within yourself. And so the last thing I will talk about is the North Node shift. So here's the North Node shift coming to relevance yet again. And now I already did a video about the North Node shift. Rahu and Ketu are going into the signs of Taurus and Scorpio for the next 18 months. And it shifts literally today as you're watching this. So September 23rd, the North and South Node officially go to Taurus and Scorpio. And so in my shift video, I talk more about it, but how is it relevant for October? Well, October is the first month of the 18 months where we have the official shift of the nodes in the signs. So we end the month in September 23rd, we end the month with that shift, but we really feel the shift literally in October. So you guys can get that picture of that Taurus Scorpio energy being more relevant in October than it is in September. And what does this mean for Pisces? This means that North Node Rahu is going to be in your 3rd house for the next 18 months. Your South Node is going to be in your 9th house for the next 18 months. And in October, I feel like this initiates a new cycle for you pertaining to how you communicate with people. And communication is the huge theme with 3rd house, and you can expect travel as well to be a huge theme for you in the next 18 months. You might be even making travel plans specifically in October, or going on like road trips or something like that, or taking some sort of vacation, or like a going somewhere by yourself and just like relaxing or something like that. But when it comes to this major cycle you're going into, there's that theme of communication and how you communicate with partners. How do you initiate those boundaries with people? Pisces is the sign of boundaries, and you're having the full moon in Pisces in your 1st house. So you're really reflecting on how you set boundaries with people. How do you stand up for yourself? I feel like the Pisces karmic lesson can deal with boundaries in the sense you might have people throughout your life that disrespect your boundaries. You don't have boundaries with people. You have trouble standing up for yourself, have trouble people, having like a backbone with people, or like saying no to people. But I feel like October is that month where you dig deep into any traumas you have that are relative to boundary setting, and like why you don't set boundaries, why you have trouble with it, and kind of unearthing that trauma and healing that trauma. 8th house does ultimately trigger that sense of healing. So I feel like you are really healing those boundary issues you have, and moving forward, you're learning how to set boundaries in a more healthy way. And once you set those boundaries, you have more healthy partnerships, and you're able to navigate the world in a more I would say like self-respecting sort of way, in a way that people also respect you as well. So self-respect, boundaries, standing up for yourself is huge here with this North Node shift. And also too, with North Node activating your 3rd house and that 8th house energy and being activated with Libra in October, there's that energy of focusing on attainment of spiritual knowledge. I feel like the next 18-month journey for you is really about spiritual knowledge, gaining spiritual knowledge. 3rd house and 9th house, which is the axis in your chart, which is being lit up for you in the 18 months, is all about knowledge. It's about college. It's about learning languages, etc. So some of you guys might be signing up for school like in October, or like taking a class, or maybe trying to move abroad for college, anything like that, where you do set this new journey of knowledge. And there's this really strong sense of spiritual knowledge. This isn't like learning a new skill that is kind of generic, but really digging deep into the esoteric part of life, into the occult, into astrology, into tarot. You guys are taking those skills more seriously, and taking your spiritual skills more seriously. Digging more into those spiritual topics and taking them more seriously is also a theme with this 8th house energy in October, combined with that 3rd house activation, 9th house activation with the North and South Node shift. So if you guys want to know more about like the step-by-step 18-month journey for you, I have that in the shift video. You guys can watch it. And so it's relevant for the next 18 months. So you guys can bookmark it, save it, and just see what your journey takes you on in the next 18 months. And that brings me to spooky season. So it is spooky season. It is Halloween. October 31st. October 31st, we're having a full moon in Aries. So October this year, the full moon in Aries on Halloween is very on brand with like the spooky season theme. And so with that being said, I'm curious to know what was like one of your favorite Halloween costumes, or like one of the funny Halloween costumes you did, or like a memorable one. Tell me down below. I will be doing a separate video about the full moon in Aries on Halloween, and doing like a special spooky season video, so look out for that in October. Subscribe so you don't miss it. And also, if you want a sneak peek of retrograde, what that will have in store for you, and the warnings for retrograde, head to my Patreon at AstroKit. Instagram will have the full list of events happening in October, and more daily astrological content is posted as well. So follow me on Instagram at AstroKits, and on TikTok, AstroKits. Everything will be linked down below, and I'll see you Pisces in my next video.